Hey guys, welcome to an all-new bonus round here on GameTrailers.com. I'm Jeff Keighley, and this month we are here at QuakeCon in Dallas, Texas, where id and Bethesda just revealed Doom. We're going to get to that in a second, but first of all, let me introduce our panel this month. We've got Adam Sessler, who is now a consultant at Theory Head, your own company, right?
Yes. No longer press, but still in games. So
glad to have you still in
I'm
games.
happy
We
to
do
be
have
here.
a member of the press with us, though, Andrew Reiner, the executive editor of Game Informer. Reiner, great to have you with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And of course, a man who needs no introduction here around all things Bethesda, Pete Hines, the VP of Marketing and PR. Pete, great to have you with us. Thanks for inviting us down to QuakeCon.
Absolutely, welcome to QuakeCon.
Great to be here. Last night was a big night with the reveal of Doom. All of us were sitting there in the audience when Marty Stratton from id showed off 2 levels from the brand new Doom, the long-awaited Doom. Pete, let's start with you. Doom 4 and now Doom has been talked about for many, many years. Why was this the right time to finally show it off?
It's one of those things that there's a couple of reasons. One is it got mentioned and talked about on stage several years ago, and so it was kind of hanging out there for a really long time because it had gotten mentioned and they put a logo up. This is actually before Bethesda and id became a thing. Another was there's been some changes at id. Some stuff has gone on and people talking about like what's going on with Doom, or is there even going to be a Doom? And from my perspective, seeing what the guys are working on, I was like, look, I love what you guys are doing. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in the folks that you have, and I think it would be a great opportunity to do something, not to announce it necessarily to the whole world or to show it to the whole world, but the folks that come to QuakeCon, this is the 19th QuakeCon. These are the biggest fans of id there are, and to do something just for them to say, look, rumors of our demise have been over-exaggerated. Doom is in really good hands. It's in really good shape, and that was kind of the intent, is to do something just for the fans to let them know, hey, we're still making pretty kick-ass games.
And now we're going to tease people watching this because we have no footage, no screenshots. You're giving us nothing to work with, Pete.
Sorry. We're fully prepared to show everybody down the road and promote our game and talk about it like we always do, but this was just a QuakeCon thing, just for the fans, and we didn't want to start going down the path of screenshots and footage and all that stuff. It's not that time.
All right, well, we will tell you what we saw with our eyeballs, at least, Sess and Reiner. So, this is, very much Doom. It's, fast-paced shooter, chainsaw, double-barrel shotgun. The thing that struck me was the level of gore and the melee. That's a big new thing in Doom. What was your take on that?
The melee, it's so fun to look at. The animations are just kind of gorgeous, and obviously there's kind
skull
of
rips,
there's
tears,
there's that Sam Raimi level type of just over-the-top gore. But I think what is really most impressive about it is the melee solves what's kind of a fundamental problem for that type of shooter, which is you don't want to be cover-based, you don't want to be slow, you want to be fast, but that tends to throw a lot of enemies at you and you back up a lot, or you just start circle strafing. With this melee, you have a way of dispatching an enemy and continually go forward, and it gave that demo this kind of remarkable sense of speed and just kind of thrust, which I think I was like feeling my heart go a little bit faster while I was watching
and
it.
It's a style of play we've gotten away from recently. Most characters in games now are bullet sponges. You take cover when the screen starts flashing red. In Doom, you see the enemy like shooting the fireball at you, and as you're saying, you're doing the circle strafing and stuff like that. So there's a lot of evasion there, yet you never really feel like you're in danger. If that's what the sense I took away from it was that he was playing the game well, and he was mowing those enemies down left and right, one after another. Shotgun, double barrel shotgun, blow off a guy's torso. Shoot the next guy with the plasma rifle. As you said, like to rip the jaw apart. It was just one after another, just kind of like popcorn, just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, there was a lot of strategy to that. How does that work, Pete? I mean, you have one melee button, you sort of go up and then melee the guy, or is it more?
Yeah, it's all context sensitive, and it's not a like, well, you got to do like YYXYB to do this. It's all just like you're just meleeing a thing, and depending on where you are,
sort of like the right stick.
He's just doing a simple melee, and depending on where he is and where the enemy is, it'll decide whether it's gonna smash his head against the wall, or if he's jumping down, if he's gonna stomp it with the boot. That's all just the game sort of handles that based on where you are and where it is.
No, I did feel like there's strategy that can evolve out of that in terms of how you play with the enemies too, because some of them we saw had shields, other things. So I imagine sort of the combination of the melee and the weapons will add a layer of strategy, which that's one of the challenges with Doom. It's like we love the simplicity of Doom and the classic shooter.
But sometimes it obscures that there is a lot of skill that has to be used when you're playing it. And I think, for the purposes of the demo, you just kind of had enemy after enemy after enemy, but at the very end, you finally start to see a group of them.
Yep.
And that's where it became really clear where the challenge would start to emerge, which is, okay, do I melee that guy, or do I try to hang back a little bit and just shoot? Because there are vulnerabilities that you're going to expose yourself to.
And we even saw an instance of enemies battling each other. So that looks like that's going to be a component in the game too.
Yep.
So it looks like there's going to be a lot of strategy, and that classic Doom.
Peach just smiling.
That classic Doom vibe of every weapon gives you a different, type of feel on the battlefield and how you're going to approach enemies. So
It's that sense of fun and sort of juvenile silliness.
Yep.
I think I like a good serious shooter. I think everyone knows that, but it's like, this is what I came to games with in the first place, and it really does capture that.
And that's what's as you said, what we love about Doom, and we don't necessarily need Doom to be a rich narrative with characters coming up and talking to you and all that. It's like there was a little bit of a hint of sort of a story moment there where you
Demons
saw kind of a
on
hologram. Exactly.
that's all right. You got me.
But Pete, how are you guys approaching stories? You guys showed single player, you didn't show multiplayer, so I think some people might have thought maybe they're just going to go multiplayer only with Doom.
As Marty said in his opening comments, like there's a lot to talk about with Doom, but we didn't approach this as like a worldwide announce. We were doing it as a fan service QuakeCon thing, and as he said in his comments, like I'm just going to talk about the combat today. Like I'm going to pick out one part of it, and it's a part that we feel like we got to get right for the rest of it to work, and we'll at a later date be talking about story and narrative. He did reference yes, the multiplayer, all the stuff that you saw yesterday, like those things are applicable to a multiplayer experience that we are building and that we're playing. Like it's a ton of fun. We play it all the time, several times a week. We have a blast. Wow. But it was, to the point Reiner made, like it is about demonstrating that Doom is different and that games are allowed to just be fun. Like they don't always have to have like, a moral story or like to be teaching you something about humanity or like sometimes like it's fun to just sit down and have fun. And I think there's gonna be a lot of other stuff we can talk about, but we wanted to show what was fun, and we wanted to show what like fluid, like feeling like a badass, I don't need cover, but it is worth noting, as Adam pointed out, like there's a tremendous amount of skill in that demo yesterday. It's kind of hard to overstate like just how much practice those guys do to be able to go through, because like anybody else who just picked it up, like you just sort of try and wander into that room, like you got to know what you're doing or you're gonna die. But when I hear you guys talk about it, like I'm thinking like these are all the things we talked about. Like what do we want people to walk away from? It's all the stuff you guys are talking about. So I'm very happy, and I know the id guys are. 2 other people liked it, and now they're all back in the office. Like okay, we got to make the rest of the game.
Yeah, I know, and that edge and gore. I mean, that was always something you guys sort of thought about moving in that direction. Why was it important to sort of push on that element? Was it the idea of adding that up close and personal?
It was. There was a lot of talking and conversation about like when you strip away everything else, like what does Doom have to be about? And they felt like, look, part of it is like it's not just fighting against the relentless onslaught of demons, but it's doing it in a way that's very visceral, that's very bloody, that it's got to have those moments where you're like, oh my god, oh no, like, the chainsaw stuff, that sequence of like, it's not just about wielding a chainsaw, it's about wielding a chainsaw and having demons die very badly, or like you were talking before about the rocket launcher, and you blow up a demon and its lower legs are still like they take a couple of steps while the spinal cord is sticking out of the top of it. Like it's little things like that take it from being like just a shooter to being like it's a little bit more primal and visceral. And I think adding those things in the right way, in the right amounts, makes the experience that much more sort of fun and engaging.
And the shooter genre, is an interesting spot right now, because we're seeing, some games move very much towards multiplayer focus, things like Titanfall, other people focusing just on single player, like Wolf, which is, one of the best reviewed games this year still, and that, I think the game has had a great afterlife. If you haven't played it, it's a great game. Adam, where do you think the shooter genre is going? You think it's sort of diverging, we're going down 2 different paths?
I think it is. I think that's a healthy thing. not just with shooters, but primarily with shooters, I think we saw a spate of time where if it didn't have multiplayer, it wasn't going to sell, and so you would start to see probably less attention being paid to the single player in order to, give assets and time to that multiplayer, and you just didn't get, you kind of get the lesser result of both worlds.
Yeah.
I think with a game like Wolfenstein, with a game like BioShock Infinite, and then with the success of a game like Titanfall, that we're starting to see some confidence in the industry that you can just go in the direction that you're competent in, focus on that, and you can find an audience with it. And hopefully that just means that the term shooter becomes kind of inappropriate.
Right.
That it's what type of shooter is
Different genres,
Yeah.
right.
I think the age of the copycats might be done. Of every company has to have our Call of Duty. That clearly didn't work, and now people are finding like having their own identity in that space is the way to go.
Of course, Call of Duty now has to have its Titanfall. So
they can copy each other. But Pete, you guys obviously made a big bet a few years ago acquiring id, the sort of creator of the 3D FPS. How do you see, how do you guys approach the shooter genre? You had Wolf, obviously, which was very successful. Doom is sort of a different spice of that, but you're doing single player and multiplayer.
I mean, look, our approach at Bethesda has always been, you go to the creative people who have the idea for the game they want to make, and you say, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And, what is your vision? What do you want to create? You ask questions, but at the end of the day, like if that's the thing that they're passionate about and built to create, then that's what you back. In the case of machine games, you don't go to machine games and say, look, I know you've never done multiplayer before, but Wolfenstein has had some great multiplayer, so you guys should do that. You say, what do you guys want to do? And they say, we want to take Wolfenstein and make it relevant again, and we want to bring a lot of character and story and these other gameplay elements that we've done before. So Doom, it was like, guys, what should it be about? It should be about single player, multiplayer, and some of the stuff you saw yesterday. Evil Within, Shinji Mikami, what kind of survival horror game do you want to create? Like, I think it's about letting a developer decide, and Titanfall is a great example. Like, look, they wanted to focus on like great multiplayer and not have single player. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, and you're seeing with Destiny and Call of Duty continues to do what it's do. But I think to your point, shooter is not enough anymore to tell you what a game is about, because it can mean a lot of different things, and so it's going to start to become, I think, everybody heading off in a variety of different directions, and I don't think there's anything wrong with any of them. Like, fine, be a single player only, a multiplayer only, a free to play, a combination of single player, multiplayer. There's space, I think, for all of them, so long as they're staying true to like, this is the experience I want to create.
All right, well, Doom did look pretty good. We'll see more in the future, I guess, Pete?
We'll let you know.
All right, we'll draw pictures for you. Something. All right, well, that's it for this week on the bonus round. But next week we'll be back with more from QuakeCon.